When it comes to horror fans and enthusiasts of the genre, there are a few things, more like unspoken rules that you can and can't say, and that's what I want to talk about tonight. For instance, everyone is allowed to like Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2 really, but because of what happened with the director, that is where the allegiance must die. The same can be said about 1980's The Fog. It plays so well as a perfect American ghost story on so many levels, but if for some reason you own the 2005 Platinum Dunes remake, you might want to pull the car over, remove the feminine hygiene products, and report to your nearest fire station and turn in that horror fan card. I guess if you also like that, maybe Hot Topic and Spencer's Gifts are kind of your, holy land if you also enjoyed the 2015 Abomination remake of Poltergeist. I'm getting lost on a tangent. That's not really what I'm trying to do tonight. I just want to prove that there are some things that you can and can't do as a lover of horror films. And where things for me get a little bit murky, where things get a little bit gray, is when one of your favorite directors makes something that not everybody likes. The one that we're talking about tonight is the almighty king of the slasher, the forebearer of the apocalypse, Mr. John Carpenter. Now, to his credit, John has brought us horror fans just an absolute treasure trove. Films that we've never really had to want for anything, things we didn't deserve. We have been just completely spoiled by Carpenter's work. Films like Halloween, Christine, the aforementioned Fog, Prince of Darkness, They Live in the Mouth of Madness, and the greatest horror film of all time, in The Thing. If all that is true, shouldn't we also kind of trust John and his judgment? Isn't he allowed as he gets older to take some creative chances and see what does and what doesn't work? You'll notice we left off Vampires, Village of the Damned, right? Escape from LA, Ghosts of Mars, as those are kind of divisive for a lot of fans of the genre, but are still kind of accepted as Carpenter classics as they get older. What I want to talk about is what happens when something is directed and released that is instantly shamed. Not even like a quote, so bad it's good, nothing even like that. A horror film from 2010, and did I mention that John has been a part of my horror journey pretty much my entire life? If you haven't been paying attention, John is one of my favorite directors. He can do no wrong. I love his attitude, I love his disposition, I love his grumpy, I love everything about John Carpenter. Everything. I celebrate the man's pretty much entire catalog, as they say from Office Space. And that includes 2010's The Ward. And I'm sick of defending the hate that this film gets, and for the last time, I'm going to set the record straight on why this is still quite the quality film in the Carpenter canon. Hang on. Now, The Ward opens like a lot of John's films, dark, ominous, and with a score that makes an impact before the title crawls do. In The Ward, there's a little bit more reserved sound and score, but, that's not necessarily always a bad thing. In this particular feature, we are also dealing with kind of a social pariah, an Amber Heard pre-Johnny Depp in the poop scoot when she was seriously trying to act and kind of see what sticks, if you will. The film opens with thunder, lightning, an incredible isolated setting in an old rundown but fully functional hospital ward for women who are committed for their poor behavior and worrisome minds. Set in 1966, we get impressive shots of hallways and a ghost tormenting the residents that make up the North Bend Hospital on the Oregon coast. North Bend is right down by Coos Bay, which is a beautiful part of the country if you live on the West Coast. Now, right off the bat, using my state as a setting kind of instantly adds a point for the film. The other automatic PowerPoint goes to Carpenter for being behind the camera, right? Now, for those of you who haven't seen this film and have only heard about its reputation, let me get this shit out of the open just right away. Jump scares from the fucking jump. Jump scares are a major bone of contention for a lot of people when it comes to this quaint little supernatural shocker. The first reason is, really, John? All these jump scares? He must suck now as a director. It's pathetic. Or maybe he wanted to try something different. Maybe he was interested in doing something like that goes a little bit, I don't know, maybe that was also really popular and maybe he was just a little bit worn out. Maybe he needed a shot. Maybe he just needed to make some fucking money. I don't know. But I don't necessarily think that jump scares make him pathetic. Number two, the reason that people don't like this film, it's got the girl who shits the bed and lies in court, so I automatically hate her, right? Amber Heard. The third complaint I always hear is how he was just trying to cash in on the success of Shutter Island and other films like that, but failed so miserably. John's just washed up, dude. This movie's been made 1,000 times. Same old trope, same old John. How dare you? Shame on you for even saying that. I'm tired of hearing reviewers talk about this film that way. For all those gripes I say, get the fuck out of here with that mess. Get the fuck out of here. Those hot takes are lazy and air thin now. This thing is 15 years old, right? Now, if you wanted to bitch and moan about the twist and how tired that has become in the cinematic landscape at the time, sure, even some of the script is paper thin, but it's not like John wrote it, right? John just directed it. He just jumped on because he kind of liked the isolated setting and he just wanted to make a film. Is that okay? Can we just forget about how scripts have to be perfect and the twist has to always work? Can you not just take the ride with John and just kind of see what happens and just kind of let him have fun? That's what I think of when I watch this film. This is a film by John Carpenter just having a great time. So at its core, The Ward is a psychological horror film that delves into themes of isolation, madness, and the haunting effects of the past. Set in a mental institution in the 60s, the film follows this young woman named Christy who is admitted after committing a violent act. She navigates the eerie corridors and the secrets of her fellow patients. Soon she realizes that the institution is haunted by a malevolent spirit. Now, here's what works, okay? The atmosphere. The atmospheric setting for me works 100%. The film's setting in this old mental hospital creates this unsettling atmosphere. All you gotta really do is just follow the camera in that big old pan of vision that John's known for using and just let him film some soft rooms, some long corridors, some long hallways, down in the basement, right? Gritty, grime. How about a little bit of body horror too? We'll get there. The dimly lit rooms, the flickering lights, the haunting echoes amplify the feeling of dread and confinement. It makes you feel like you're kind of trapped with them. Am I right? A little bit. Number 2 point, psychological horror. The Ward blurs the lines between reality and illusion. Now, it's a little predictable after about a half an hour, sure. But that's okay. Does John always have to come out and fucking swing for the fences and maybe that's the problem, is this is guilty by, comparison, right? The thief of joy, that quote, you know what I'm talking about? I think people wanted him to come out and really make his magnum opus and go out on that note. But I think John just wanted to have fucking fun, personally. Another thing that I really like about this film are the visuals and the effects. There's a lot of practical effects here that all really work. Carpenter's style directing this is still evident in the visuals. It still is a beautiful film to look at. This is not a cheaply made movie. It's gorgeous. The 60s aesthetic actually works for me, and I think that the ghost that is kind of haunting these people, it can be a little bit, I think it's kind of cool. I've always kind of liked the idea of the psych ward being haunted by a ghost. John hadn't done anything like that before, really. If you've never seen it, it's not the worst film that people make it out to be. I really don't get that fucking argument. I'm tired of it. The using, characters' motivations and fears, as well as trauma and isolation, confinement, and just being unable to speak out against the powers that be. There's a lot of sexual tension. There's a lot of aggression. There's a lot of assault, showcasing how the trauma can actually manifest in different various forms, i.e. a ghost. That's kind of cool, right? It's I don't want to say it's different, but maybe John just was a little bit late to the party, and I think that's totally okay, man. I think that the hallucinations, the paranoia, all the portrayal, it does kind of have the viewer, you start to wonder about the character's mental health, how that's contributing to a bigger conversation that they're unable to address, especially in the 60s in that society where it was just kind of grin and bear it. Now, there are some predictable plot twists. There's even maybe some pacing issues, the lack of slow buildup, not really leading to a giant payoff. I think that people get to the end and they're like, oh man, John took us on that kind of ride. If that ending wouldn't have been like that, I would have liked the film. Well, was most of the film good? Can we just get over it? Is it okay for John to just take some chances again? I think that the film aims for psychological depth, but the plot twist, I guess people just find them too predictable and just end with this kind of sticker shock value where they're just going, that's it? That's all we get out of this film? But for me, I'm okay with that. I think that I fucking love John Carpenter, man, and I'm cool with him just taking a chance and just being himself and just having fun. I don't really mind the ambiguous ending. I kind of like it when things are divisive. You love it or you hate it. I don't want to be like, that was fine, I don't remember it. I want one or the other. And sometimes I think just a quick popcorn flick can do just that. You don't have to be in love with something. You can just kind of have a pretty good time, right? I don't get the vitriol, the aggression, the hatred for this film. Despite the negative reception, The Ward, it's still a pretty interesting exploration of fear and human psyche and showcasing, John's knack for atmospheric horror. If you don't see that, I had a great time in 2010 when I rented it. I was like, there's films like Identity, and there's a couple that are that do this there's a lot of films like this that do it better, but I think that it's still pretty powerful and I think it's still pretty damn fun. In the end, This is John Carpenter. The camera, the angles, everything is established with a great understanding, a masterful scope, mood, and tone. He is a master of his craft. He brings tension and uneasiness to every film that he does. Does it get better each time I watch it? Is it perfect? No. I think that's okay. Can that be okay? Can people just kind of like, it's a pretty good movie. It's all right. It's John Carpenter. Like, that's totally fine. I think every time I come back, the characters, the women, the effects, the ghosts, and the dread he brings to the screen, it's still pretty effective for me because I love haunted house, haunted area ghost stories. I'm just a big fan, and John doesn't do that much, so I'm a fan of this film. In a way, you kind of have a little bit of Girl Interrupted, Stand By Me, Cuckoo's Nest, and Shawshank Redemption, this kind of coming of age identity crisis kind of all happening before our eyes with an excellent villain, right? The cast is pretty good. Can you imagine this film if it wasn't John Carpenter, if this was a bad director? You get bad tracking shots, you get bad establishment, you get everything would look like crap, and it would have this kind of paper thin story and characters, right? John brings a little bit of authenticity and a little bit of, I don't know, man. He brings a little bit of dignity to this film that it didn't need to have. I'm a huge fan of psychological horror and classic haunted house ghost flicks, and this film had the atmosphere and look of the ghost in spades. Throw in some nice body horror, lobotomies, right? Force-fed medications, psychotropics, borderline personality disorders, and you've got it all. Everything that you need to get from point A to point B and just turn off your brain. That's all you really need from a horror film. When do we have to get so caught up on the story and the character development, the cinematography? Get the fuck out of here. Did you have a decent time watching it? Did it look cool? Right? Did you get to escape your mundane existence for just a few? I don't understand why people get so upset. This is a scary movie with a truly unsettling ghost with malevolent intentions. That's the idea. You got a cool ghost running around terrorizing people. What's the problem here? I guess the twist could be the problem, right? But I gotta say, maybe because everyone hates this film with so much aggression, so much vitriol, that I kind of have to go against the grain and like it. Maybe because it's John, maybe because it's his legacy and I can accept some misses, maybe because John thought that this small one setting was just, it appealed to him. It was something that he wanted to do, and I want to kind of explore his ideas and why it appealed to him, why it was intriguing for him to want to make it. It's not like he wrote it and used all of his usual crew, right? This is not what he usually does. This could have been the soft return to form just to test the waters and see if, he should come back and be a director, but because everybody hated it, he said, peace out. Now, I can't speak for him, but I adore John Carpenter, and I think that just turn off your brain for a little bit. Don't let others influence you. Don't go and read Google reviews. This has horrible reviews. Ghosts of Mars has better reviews. Are you kidding me? Come on, man. Don't let other people influence what you think when it comes to horror films. Do me a favor. The next time it's dark and stormy, just grab your favorite adult beverage, kick back the footrest on your favorite easy chair, right? Turn off your phone, kill the lights, crank up the volume, and get your freak on. You just might thank me. And I love you. Sorry for the rant. Cheers.